So first of all, our first panelist is working at SkyNRG. Their mission is to build SAF capacity to meet its 2050 net zero commitment. Please welcome Mees Fox. At Maeve, their mission is to create an electric commuter aircraft for the mainstream aviation market. Please welcome Joost Dieben. And our next panelist's mission is to prove and to promote liquid hydrogen as an alternative aviation fuel. Please welcome Gerben Drijfhout. And our fourth panelist is working at Safran. They are working on high-tech solutions. Please welcome Eugene. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining this panel, and we're going to already start because we are running a little bit out of time. Before we talk more in depth about this subject, I would like to ask you, what was your first contact with sustainable aviation? And then I start with you, Eugene.
We take the microphone.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, sure.
Is it working? Yeah. Okay. Sustainable aviation, yeah, it is. I mean, we are now in a time frame with climate change that sustainable aviation is very much on the foreground, but it's not something that is really new. I mean, it has always been an aspect that aviation has been working on. Myself, I was involved in many noise research projects in aviation, and that is certainly something that has been recognized in the manufacturing industry as something that needs to be sustainable in order to allow air traffic to grow, because there are many airports that are suffering from too high noise levels, and it is certainly putting a brake on the freedom of the operators and the airlines to operate as they wish, whether it's night flights or whether it's just more intense flights. So as a noise engineer at the time and being involved in noise research projects, there was a lot of pressure on the team I was working in to help to allow this growth in air transport by making the airplanes quieter. So it has been part of my career all the time. So.
Thank you. Gerben.
Thank you. Good to see everyone. I think for me personally, this moment is yet to come. You know, we work at our student team, AeroDelft, really hard every day towards our big milestones. And we have a few coming up where I think the moment for me will really come to pass. We're working towards our first gaseous hydrogen flight campaign with our prototype aircraft. Simultaneously, we're working on a full powertrain test for our manned full-scale aircraft. So this is really exciting, and what's even more exciting is to see the growth rate in these milestones as we've seen over the past years. And we're going to continue doing that with AeroDelft, hopefully for the 50 years to come that we're going to be facing this challenge. But we need students to do so. So I'll take this opportunity to say, this many students in the room, you can be part of this change. And we need the people always to show up and do the work. So you're more than welcome to join the team. Currently recruiting for next year. So it is a bit of a shameless plug, but I couldn't let the opportunity pass. And it's really your way to get involved and to make a difference from the start of your career.
Thank you, Gerben. Mees.
Yeah. Maybe the most popular thing to say, but I don't like airplanes that much because I'm a little bit afraid of heights.
Okay.
So personally I prefer to take the train. And that's not only because I'm afraid of heights, but also a little bit because of the sustainability and everything and the emissions. And therefore, when in my studies, I also studied here at the TU Delft. I studied life science and technology with biochemical engineering as a specialization. And there was a case there that had sustainable aviation fuel in it. So a way to still fly, but then without the actual emissions. And that's what I thought was really great. And therefore, when I started looking for a job, I wanted to do something with that. I felt I wanted to do something with sustainability. And that's how I ended up at SkyNRG, where we try to promote the use of sustainable aviation fuel and also try to produce it ourselves.
Thank you.
So I've got two answers to your question, but I'll make them very short, right?
Thank you, thank you.
So I think the first part is my experience with sustainability, coming from the e-mobility side, where we see the transitioning to electric e-mobility happening already. That was my first real experience of, hey, mobility is going towards sustainability. Aviation can't stay behind. And then I think for the other part of actual sustainable aviation, I would say I had the same experience, and I would propose you guys to do it as well. Take a train or car, go to Teugen Airport. There you can book a flight on a two-seater, fully electric, and you actually have zero emission, low noise aviation, which you can actually experience. So it's here already today, right? That was my first experience with sustainable aviation, and there's much more to come. So I think, yeah, it's already there. So let's not say it's coming, it's already here, but we need to grow it.
Thank you. You already said that there's much more to come. Well, my first statement is, and maybe you can share your view on that, is that the current innovation speed is not fast enough to reach the climate goals in 2050. Eugene, I see you thinking, so...
I thought you directed.
Yeah.
I mean, let me jump into that.
Yeah.
Right? So I do agree, right? If we look at the figures now, look at the graphs that the big institutes are showing, is that we're not going quick enough. I mean, we only have one planet that we can save, and the rate of technology is not going quick enough, not as quick as the rate of growth of aviation. So we need to offset that. So I think indeed that we as an industry together have a responsibility to increase the amount of innovations that we plan on this, and not only on technology side, but across the board. We need to do it on the operations side, we need to do it in the e-fuels, we need to do it on everything which is needed, because otherwise we only have one planet left here. So I think we're not going quick enough, and we can do more.
Thank you, well said.
Yeah, I
Gerben?
think for sure, definitely agree. And I think all of us in this room agree. It was in your presentation, Victor. We need to go faster. We need to increase the speed of innovation. I think the question of how can we do that? How can we accelerate sustainable aviation and increase the innovation speed? I think that is the question we should be asking ourselves. And I think there's a big role there in the choices we make. You know, we're limited in time, resources, people, money to tackle these issues because we have a short time span to work in. And then it comes down to the choices, for example, the people make, you, the students, us, the students, as where we want to work in the future, what projects we want to focus on. I think, you know, the partners that we have at AeroDelft, we have a very strong synergy there, a synergy between industry, students, and the technology that we work on to really develop the minds of the young engineers now coming into action. So you can all make that choice, put your efforts behind sustainable aviation and the one that you think will work long term. And if we do that, I think we can massively increase the speed of innovation. And another thing that I want to mention here is that, you know, speed of innovation is never really linear. It's really hard to predict, right? So sometimes it seems to go very slowly, and then suddenly it's in an exponential ramp. And we need to focus on the technologies that can make that happen. One of these is artificial intelligence. We've all seen it's now coming into, you know, university classes, even with ChatGPT, OpenAI. I'm sure you know. But I'm very excited to what this technology will bring for engineering as well. Because I think, you know, if we set out a timeline for development, 20 years down the line, who knows what tools we'll have to work with? Who knows what methods we can employ to really accelerate sustainable aviation?
Thank you. Gerben?
Maybe if I can add to that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I certainly agree that a lot more is needed to really achieve the goals. But at the same time, I see that we are making progress, and especially with the demonstrators. I mean, we have seen the demonstrator for the A380 hydrogen engine that is set up, but also the demonstrators here at Delft, where you had your small airplane with hydrogen propulsion. And those kind of projects are really needed to prove that we can do it, or to really find out where the bottlenecks are. So any good idea is wonderful, but really put it into practice and fail if you want. But that's the only way to find out if it really works.
And how are you doing that? Because that sounds...
No, but I mean, everybody has good ideas, but the only way to really find out if the idea works is to build it and to find out if it works. And so we are trying to do that in industry, and you are doing that here at the university. And I think it's a good way to really keep doing that and make more projects with flying test beds and demonstrators. And it requires a big investment, but it's really worth it. From the paper studies to the concept studies, and then really make it fly.
Mees, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think I of course agree. We want to go faster. Are we going fast enough? I wish I knew. I wish I knew what we're doing enough. Indeed, as was already mentioned, lots and lots is happening. From our industry, we see that more sustainable aviation fuel plants are being announced every day. But the actual volumes that are there are minimal, are really the minimal of what we actually need. And that's only for Europe at this point. While for the world, from some internal numbers, we need about 2,500 more sustainable aviation fuel plants. And that is just to get to the goal that we set, 2050 net zero based on sustainable aviation fuel. And even then, we also need the hydrogen. We also need electric. We also need better airplanes, more efficient airplanes. So I would say I invite you all to please contribute to this, as I think now as an industry everybody agrees that something needs to happen. Everybody is waiting for it to happen. But to go a little faster wouldn't hurt, I would say.
Well said. I think there's a lot of focus on the emissions during the flight. If I would say there should be more focus on the sustainability of the product line instead of the emissions during flight. What is your perspective on it?
I think for sure. Obviously, with climate change, it's not a local issue; it's a global issue. We need to be sustainable across the board, because if we make sustainable aircraft and then power them with coal plants, obviously it's not going to work. So I think it's very clear that we do have to focus on the entire supply chain. And I think that we all, with the technologies that we're working on, we're facing challenges with this, right? So, in terms of the materials that we need to either build batteries or fuel cells, the energy that we need to produce the hydrogen or the sustainable aviation fuel, all of these things we need to do green. And sustainably and at a low cost, because otherwise it will never be implemented.
Can you give an example of it?
An example of?
Yeah, in your project where you're seeing that?
So, actually, great question. Yeah, our student team, we aim to prove and promote liquid hydrogen as a future for sustainable aviation. And we really focus on this entire supply chain. So we also really make a point of trying to bring along the industry to create the infrastructure and the supply of hydrogen that we will need to fly our aircraft. So yeah, we actively work on this. Maybe one thing I still like to mention is we focus generally on CO2 emissions. For aircraft, we really also need to think about the non-CO2 effects, since CO2 effects only account for a third of the hydrogen. A third of the climate impact of aviation. So we need to look at NOx, we need to look at particulate emissions, we need to look at contrails, and I think there's lots of exciting and innovative research being done also here at the TU to make those decisions properly.
Thank you. Mees, how are you doing that in your company?
Well, for us, it's a lot of it is in the feedstock, of course. What kind of feedstocks do you use? And when producing sustainable aviation fuel, you need to reach a certain threshold of CO2 emission reduction throughout the life cycle of producing the fuel. So for example, if you're using carbon capture to use in your fuel, then the energy used for that capture also needs to be taken into account. So therefore, it's very important to look at, okay, where do we get these feedstocks from, and how are they produced using sustainable energy? And also some feedstocks which we prefer not to use. For example, palm oil is a very difficult subject because there are reductions in emissions. But there are also other effects which also have to do with sustainability, which are detrimental to the world as a whole. So also that is something that we try to look at and to really keep sustainability central within the company and also that production. And the more sustainable that we produce the fuel, the less facilities we would actually need to produce enough sustainable aviation fuel to reduce enough emissions.
Interesting. Joost, and how are you doing that at Maeve?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the production of, in our case, batteries or sustainable aviation fuel or hydrogen, it's very important, right, where it comes from. Makes no sense to pollute on one side and make it more sustainable on the other side. And in our case, right, it's batteries. Batteries are per definition at this moment quite a touchy subject, so to say. But I'm very happy to see that we already kind of have the ability to kind of follow on the movements that a lot of our e-mobility friends are already doing. The car industry are doing already. 13 of the 15 big OEMs are already moving towards, fully battery electric, leaving away their combustion engines. And that's kind of forces them to innovate more in where do these batteries come from? And specifically, a lot of them come actually out of Europe, so they have regulations to follow as well. So that's very important that we know where our chemicals, where our batteries come from, that there's a circularity there as well. And I guess that's in our case also very important. We source from the places that we feel that have a way of and have regulations set in place to produce these batteries, to produce these aircrafts. And that should be taken into account as well. The complete life cycle, the CO2 over the complete life cycle of the aircraft needs to be taken into account for us and for any of the other ones that are made as well. Yep.
Thank you. Eugene?
Yeah, and on our side at Safran, we have a production line for aero engines, for the LEAP engine south of Paris. And we have been renewing that production line in the last couple of years to make it more friendly, more sustainable, more worker-friendly also for the people working on it. There have been big efforts also in reducing hazardous materials in the production process. Also, a lot of parts have been replaced by additive manufacturing processes to be more efficient with the use of materials. And lately, the latest challenge on sustainability is that we have in the company a big challenge ongoing where everybody is asked to provide at least 3 ideas for energy consumption in the daily process, either in the plant or in the offices. So, and with something like 70,000 employees at the moment worldwide, that means a lot of work, ideas to work through, but I'm sure a few of them will be kept there. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think we spoke about this before, more about the societal part. What do you think if we're going to alternative fuels? Do you think that it causes safety concerns in the public eye? Because we already mentioned it before, flying is really safe. So if we're making this transition, how will the public react on it? And I start with you, Joost.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. How do you change the public? I think that the movement is already set. I think, I'm going to be very naughty and kind of pose the question back again. If we don't do anything, how would the public feel safe about that, right? I mean, there's no safety guaranteed at this moment if we continue in this track what we're on. So I feel that the public on that space is what we see are easily to accept, or more easy to accept, that these alternative fuels, technologies will come in place, They've already been seen in the other sectors as well. But there is this
But
big...
maybe to challenge you,
Yeah?
if I drive a car,
Mhm.
I'm still the driver. If you're sitting in an airplane, you're not the pilot, so...
But have you ever thought about who built your airplane, where you sit in, how it's been built, and do you ever challenge them on, well, maybe here the Airbus and the Boeing here, do you ever challenge them on how they've done it, right? I feel that, yes, there is a, coming back to your answer, coming back to your question, yes, there is a challenge for us to change the public air as well.
Yeah.
We need to. And that comes part of the responsibility. But that's, you do already see that shift. You are already, as you mentioned, stepping in your electric car and not really expecting anything to burst in flames going on the road, right? And that's the same level of safety that we are challenged to get as well. Yeah, time, invest, we need to do that.
Do you get questions about it?
Yes, we do get questions, but it is a very difficult topic to answer, right? By a person by himself, and it is a shift that's just happening, a transitioning that will come as soon as technology will be there and it's been proven as well. Plus the fact that we also have the authorities on our side as well. For example, EASA, NFA, also focusing on this area, and they're of course the holder of safety, so to say. So, and with them, the public will come as well. But it is a challenge, and we need to invest time in it. Yeah.
Yeah, is it important? Safety, yeah, it's the most important. And communication there is vital. If nobody trusts it, then what are we doing it for? And I mean, we also can't have it. If there's an accident due to one of our technologies, then that will only hurt the industry. So it's vital that we do enough demonstration testing, that we show the public what's happening. And I feel lucky for my industry because we're already using sustainable aviation fuel. It's being flown on. And yeah, but that also took a lot of time because before that it was actually used. Everybody knew what it was and what the safety of it was. So it takes time, and I think we should take the time to make sure that it's safe, and also then yeah, really as an industry also help to communicate this in a clear way to make sure that everybody trusts the things that we're doing.
Yeah, I think you know, focusing on changing the public's mind, you know, it's hard to change the public's mind. The public is going to be you know, daunted or maybe scared by any new technology. We've seen this throughout the ages, even in my short time of living here. But I think what we really need to focus on is the engineering problems and the fundamentals of the systems that we're working with. For hydrogen, it's generally looked at as, you know, this very combustible substance, which is true. We need to recognize it as such. But there's properties of hydrogen that make it more dangerous than kerosene, and there's properties that make it less dangerous than kerosene. For example, hydrogen has a very low ignition energy, which means you can a small spark can create a fire or an explosion. And its flammability range is very high. So from about 4% to like 75% concentration, it's flammable. But the properties of hydrogen that make it safer is that it's very volatile, it's very light. So once you spill it, it's going to be gone in seconds. It just goes up in the atmosphere. And another one is that actually the lower flammability limit of hydrogen is higher than that for of kerosene. So, you know, we need to look at this fuel in a new way, not at the same way as we look at kerosene, because it's not kerosene. And we have different properties that we're working with. We need to, you know, mitigate the increased risks, and we need to, let's say, employ the safety features that are built into the molecule. So, yeah, if we focus on these engineering challenges and we adhere to the regulations and, you know, work with the regulators to understand all the risks, then there's no reason why hydrogen shouldn't be any less safe than kerosene.
Eugene, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I'm confident that we will be able to make it safe because we will have to. I mean, in general, from a safety point of view, the public doesn't accept any air transport that is less safe than what we have today. So we have to improve. Fortunately, on the regulation side, I see now that EASA is also joining the clean aviation research project. So we have now the regulators closer to the innovators, which is a big improvement compared to the past Clean Sky project. But still, your question was about the public opinion, and of course they don't care about what EASA said. They have their gut feeling, and they need to feel safe. And so we cannot really have a Hindenburg kind of incident in our in our project, because that would be really devastating for the image of air transport. But fortunately, I see more hydrogen applications also in cars. I read this morning BMW is starting now also hydrogen cars. So hopefully the public will get used to more hydrogen in life.
Thank you, well said. Because of the time, I want to look into the room and look if there are any questions for one of the panelists. So do you have a question? Because this is your opportunity to challenge them. And I know you can, because you did before. So is there a question? Or do you all want to have a break? Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, thank you all. I have a question to Gerben and Joost. You're both building aircraft, sustainable aircraft, but in very different manners. Is there something, and you can maybe tell each other, what you maybe can learn from each other, even though you're making different aircraft?
I think Gerben and I have conversations already. So yes, we're building a different aircraft. I would say we're building an aircraft with a different powertrain, but we are daunted with the same challenges, I would say. I mean, from a technical point of view, thermal management is always a problem out there, right? Energy density is always a problem out there. Power density should always be a problem. Safety, certification, these are all very big challenges that I feel that both of us have, as well as the last question, right? Public appearance. I mean, those are elements that we can definitely learn from each other. But also, there's also a lot of these synergies in technology. We use the same engine technology. Why wouldn't we build on that knowledge together and continue development? So there's a lot of synergies, I would say, kind of the short answer. Yeah.
I think agreed. Essentially, what you have to recognize is that in a hydrogen aircraft, it's going to have all the things that an electric aircraft has. So there's an electric motor, electric distribution system, and most likely in some cases a battery. All those technologies are also going to be in hydrogen aircraft. Sharing the same technologies, I hope that battery electric flight can push, also with the rapid implementation of, for example, eVTOL projects. Whether you're a fan of that, I'm not sure, but the rapid certification process that they're aiming for those technologies, I hope those technologies will trickle down into what we need for real good hydrogen aircraft, so that we have those high energy density batteries. But I think for the long term, we need to increase the energy density of our storage method, and we'll do that with hydrogen, I think, long term.
Thank you. Well, I want to. One more question. One more question, I guess.
I have one for Mees. Since SkyNRG is quite a new company in a very traditional industry, I was wondering how you face these challenges as a newcomer in the energy and fuel market. How you think either you have advantages or do you have disadvantages getting into this market? And
I will give you another challenge.
Keep it short.
Keep it short. Thank you.
Good for everyone. Always keep it short and simple. Thanks for the question. And I guess with a great amount of optimism. Just, for the last 10 years, company is now exists for, 11, 12 years. We were trying to tell everyone about sustainable aviation fuel. Nobody knew what it was 20 years ago. So just keep on telling everybody and develop the market, getting partnerships there, doing the first flights. And Yeah, of course, we're a new player, and that makes it also very exciting. We're trying to do things differently. We are not bound to any old players that are out there. So, yeah, I see it more as an opportunity actually than a hindrance.
Thank you. Well, give the panelists an applause for their participation. Thank you very much.